Good afternoon. Today is Monday, June the 9th. This is the regularly scheduled Tennessee Athletic Commission meeting. My name is Roxana Gamusio. I'm the Executive Director with the Commission. As first order of business, I'm going to do roll call vote to make sure that we have quorum. When I read your name, members, please let me know that you are here. Ricky Goodrich. Thank you. Ben Grove is not here at the moment, but he might be joining us. Dan McGrew.
Here.
Thank you. And Corey Cipolla.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, members. The notice for this meeting was posted on the Commission's website since June 17th of 2024. Subsequently, we've updated it to the current website, to the current agenda that's on the website, and that's been posted since June the 4th. As the members know, we will interrupt at the end of the meeting with our new business to make sure that anyone that's participating through Teams or here in person, if they've got any comments regarding anything presented on the agenda, that they have an opportunity to ask any questions or give us some thoughts. If needed, they would be limited to 3 minutes. The first order of business on your agenda is to accept the agenda as it has been presented. If there are any changes of what needs to be presented, please let me know. Otherwise, I would need a motion and a second to accept it.
I make a motion to accept the minutes or the agenda as written.
Thank you.
I'll second.
And a second is by Ricky Goodrich. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, members. The next item on our agenda and on your iPads is the presentation of the March minutes. Those minutes were also emailed to our members to review in advance. If there are any amendments or changes that you see, please let me know. Otherwise, I would need a motion to accept it.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Motion by Corey. Do we have a second?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. And a second by Ricky. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, members. On your iPads, on page 6, you will see our presentation for the financial numbers. This is as of March 2025. It reflects a surplus of $40. That is not a mistake. That's as close as we can come. It leaves our reserve balance with $96,311, and this is informational only. At our next meeting, we will probably have, if not the final numbers for fiscal year 2024, 2025, at least very close to them to see how close we come this particular year. And the next item was also emailed to the members. This is the proposed meeting dates and times for 2026. We're following the same format as now, the first Monday and in the afternoon. So you've got March 9th, June 8th, September 14th, and December 14th as meeting dates. If there are any changes, let me know. Once these are approved, they will be added to the agenda so everyone knows in advance when the commission is meeting. Yes, please. I would need a motion.
I move that we accept the meeting dates for the schedule for next year.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Motion by Corey and a second by Ricky. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. No opposition. Thank you, members. On page 7, we are going to start with the legal report, and I will be turning it over to our attorney, Jesse Gentry. Thank you, sir.
All right, good afternoon. So we've got a 4-page legal report, and just to kind of let you all know procedurally, there's 3 new cases on there, and then we have a matter that at the last meeting, the board or the commission voted to review some of the footage and discuss further a fight that was being appealed. And I believe Mr. Daniel is here as well. He was one of the fighters involved with that. So we'll start with the first 3 matters on the legal report, the new matters. The first one is case 2025005601. This is a fight or a complaint against a combatant. With a recommendation to close this complaint, I'll let you all have some time to read the summary on this one. for any discussion? I know, Ben, you may have just gotten the legal report, so we're on case number 1.
Is it okay to discuss some of it while Ben finishes up?
Yes.
Is that okay, Ben? Now, there was nothing found that showed that anything out of the ordinary as far as the rules are concerned was implemented to make a big difference. It just shows what the referee could have done, but what he did or didn't do was within the rules.
Yes.
Anybody have anything else to add on that?
Yeah, I'm just not sure what we would do about it. They're asking for us to establish human error, which we haven't even seen video of it, so.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, with this specific request, this was a request to, I guess, change the result of this bout. Watching the video, it's the referee, I think, could have done, possibly could have deducted a point. It's the referee's discretion at that point. It wasn't a missed foul. It was, the referee saw it, gave a warning, and restarted. So I think at that point where it's a little bit different as well is the fact that the referee did see that it was a foul, gave a warning, which was within his discretion, and allowed the bout to continue. So it was only a 3-round bout. So, point deduction would have changed the result of this, or very likely would have changed the result. But everything, was within the referee's discretion at that point. So that's the commission's decision ultimately, but that's why the recommendation on this specific complaint is to close it.
Yeah, and especially if the ref thought that it was an accidental foul, then it's 100% his call to not take a point.
Well, if there's nothing, I guess we could make a motion on this.
You could either make a motion on each individual case or at the end. If you want to do this specific one, you could do that.
Would you like to take them one by one or all together?
I'm fine with one by one, since we already went through that one.
Okay, well, on this particular one, 202-500-5601, I make a motion that we accept the recommendation to close this particular item.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we are accepting on complaint number, first complaint, the recommendation by legal counsel. We're on to complaint number 2.
All right, thank you. In this second complaint, we listed it's the same promoter, so we put these 2 complaints together on here with the recommendation for both complaints. But it's cases 2025004061 and 2025013421. So the summary does involve both complaints, but because it's the same promoter and the same event, we thought it made sense to include them together for consideration. And this does have a recommendation to authorize formal charges based on the failure to pay the gross receipts tax and the failure to pay the professional fighter. But I'll give the commission time to read that summary.
I'd make a motion to accept the council's recommendation on this one. If she does have evidence of embezzlement, she could always come forward with that afterwards and we could reconsider, but otherwise, yeah, I feel comfortable with that.
And that's what I was going to say. At this time, this is just the recommendation to move forward with that. Either she could settle the matter, we could have a formal hearing, or if she has new evidence that she wants to present, certainly we can present that to the commission.
I second it.
We have a motion and second to accept legal counsel's recommendation. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, thank you. We're on to complaint number 3.
All right, this is the last new complaint. This is 2025010201. This also involves another failure to pay a professional fighter with a recommendation to authorize formal charges due to that failure to pay the fighter with the same recommended civil penalty to settle as the previous case.
I will make a motion to accept council's recommendation on this as well. That's a pretty easy one.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion. I apologize. I missed the second. Was the second by Corey? All those in favor to accept the recommendation by legal counsel, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you. We are on complaint number 4. Thank you, Jesse.
All right, thank you. This is the last complaint on the legal report. This was one at the last meeting was presented for review. This involves a boxing match that occurred in November 2024. The complainant filed a request to have the commission to review the fight and potentially overturn the result of the bout. It was deemed a knockout at the time. However, there was some video footage that has been provided that the commission wanted to review before making that decision. And the fighter actually is here. As requested, I did reach out to both combatants before today's state. The opponent, the other fighter, did provide some information. His response basically was that there was a decision made in the bout and that it should stand. He obviously didn't consent to having the bout overturned, but that was essentially his statement. So I wanted to make sure that the commission was aware that he was provided that opportunity. He does live out of state, I believe, and he just made a quick statement that there was a decision on this and basically to move on. But I do have the fight queued up, ready for the commission to review. I will say also I have initially we had kind of a slowed down version of it that was sent to us that we reviewed, and we also have the full fight in regular real time. We can watch that first one, the entire fight. It's only about 2 minutes long, or the entire round, for the commission to review. And then if you want to watch the slowed down version as well, because I think it's a little bit easier to see, although with it being slowed down, I think there's some different considerations versus when you watch it in real time. And I will move I will restart my computer at some point, but not now.
Good jab.
So the ending is where the issue was with the potential punch to the back of the head. Again, in real time, it's a little bit harder to judge it. I'll show the slowed down version as well, though. So again, that's the slow-mo version of that last punch. If you want me to replay any videos, please let me know. I'm happy to do that.
Slow motion again?
So I know it's a little bit obstructed, a little hard to see with the rope there, as well as. Mm-hmm. Did we try to pull that up on the other one? Oh, let me see if I can do that. Should be about right there then. So I think we. I know this is a strange review for the commission, since it was a complaint that was filed with the request to overturn the result from the bout. But at this time, I think you could either, if you wanted to overturn that result, I think the commission would have authority to do so, or close the complaint and let it stand. Mr. Daniel is also here if you wanted to hear from him at all.
Well, since he made this trip all the way here, I mean, we can hear him out if he would like to make a statement, I think.
If you want to come to the microphone.
Just full name?
Full name would be great. And I've got you read. You're ready to be. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for receiving me and letting me speak on my behalf. With this fight, it is, not the greatest quality. We didn't have the streaming that was contracted for this fight, so I'm wishing that had came through. One thing you're going to see before we get to that final disparage, which is the knockdown, is what happened prior to that. There's no tightening on these ropes, which I don't know if this is something that the commission does check off before they start a bout. This was a continued discussion from multiple fighters. We were warned before we got in there, hey, they didn't even tighten the ropes. And then you could see in that second knockdown, there's literally nothing preventing it. So when I fell that second time, which was just off of a sheer push, there was no punches thrown. He just literally took me and pushed me through that rope. There was nothing there. So I'm already hurt getting up for that second time. That third time, you can see I did a maneuver where we're taught to slip and slip. It's a simple boxing maneuver. You can see that as a 200-pound man, I'm not somebody you probably could just take your hand out and stop if I'm coming at you. So when I make that second slip and you see that my body stops and now instead of going left, I'm actually going forward, and there's no inertia from my body. You don't even see my legs spring. There's nothing that starts that forward motion but the hand that's sweeping around. And what he did is it wasn't a malicious attempt. It was simply it was the timing of reacting. He was just trying to throw punches, and since he couldn't get it, he just had my head there, and he just continued to throw. He doesn't throw it straight. If he threw it straight, it would have caught me a little bit more on my forehead or my temple, which then, again, there's no discussion here. It's not going to get overturned. But because you can see it's an actual hook, and it's a back-sided hand before the hook, how could he have got to the front side of my head if we're facing each other? It's just not possible. So that video is actually because I had somebody with an iPhone there. The original video does not show any of this. You can't see anything. You just see guys from 60 feet away. So that's why, to the other fighter's defense, If I'm him, I'm like, what is there to look at? Because he's just looking at the pixelated stream that was live streamed. I've gotten calls from ESPN coaches, some of the top competitors in the country, and they've actually looked at this film. It's been pretty unanimous. I actually haven't had a single person say that this shouldn't be overturned, so you guys would actually be the first. But we accept the result no matter what it is. This won't be my last fight for the commission, so we're happy to just get whatever this result is so I can get back to training. This guy's been on ESPN. Now it's going to be his third time. He's fought in front of 18,000 people off of my name. I have 73,000 followers on Instagram. He probably has 1,000. He's making a career off of what should not be a win. And I'd be happy to ask for the immediate rematch or anything like that, but this is not boxing. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Any questions for me before
As, Mr. Daniels, how long have you been a boxer?
5 years.
Do you have an amateur record?
I do.
How long were you an amateur?
I was an amateur for 2 years.
2 years, and in
2.5 years, yeah.
In those 2 years, had you won any type of tournaments or belts or anything as an amateur?
Not an accomplished amateur. I started at 35 years old, so I wasn't even in the biggest tournaments. I was in they were calling me the old guy. So, but I have fought against some top-tier talent.
Okay.
That's why I have a national ranking.
Well, if I may ask, what is your record at this time?
Including this fight, it is 0-2 as a professional.
Okay.
And that does make a big difference in contracts when you're negotiating.
Okay, I mean, I don't have anybody have any other questions for me?
Do we have, I know in mixed martial
Ben,
arts.
can I get you to? Thank you.
I know in mixed martial arts, the rule for a hit on the back of the head is broken down into a number of inches on the back of the head. Do you know the exact wording of the rule for boxing?
Sorry, I turned it off 'cause I thought there was
You're
a certain
looking for
number
the
that-
frontal of the temple. All this is legal, all the way up until you get to the ears.
They-
This is free game in boxing.
Do they say that, is that like in the rules that it's the ears?
If it's behind the ear, you're not going to
Because
get
they
that
used to
counted.
say that in mixed martial arts, but the actual rule for mixed martial arts is like the spinal cord. So it's
Which
like
is
the
which
2
is
inches
again,
on the
you're
back of your
you're
head.
talking about an experienced MMA fighter who is also a professional bare knuckle fighter, which is going to lean to MMA rules. And in MMA, if you do have a stoppage, which I went to sleep. So when you have a fight that cannot continue, it has to go a certain amount of rounds before it goes to a scorecard or at a referee's discretion. Since this was a complete stoppage, that was not a referee stoppage, this has to go to a no contest, if anything. It can't go to the cards. So it's either going to be he gets a knockout or it's a no contest. There really is no in between.
Agreed.
Well, from what I could see on the film there, I've been an amateur and a professional referee. I have over 40 years experience of doing that. I've been in the ring with anybody from Oscar De La Hoya to Deontay Wilder to Roy Jones. I've refereed all those guys at one time or another, amateurs. And I have made thousands of decisions like that, and it looked to me like he was coming around with a punch, but it was also aided with your turning also. Just like in a low blow situation, you can be hit low blow, but the person can parry that down to
Yes.
where it goes low.
Yes.
But it looked like to me, which is not the best video, I guess, possible, but it looked like to me that where you were coming down around here, you were facing this way. His punch was coming, and I'm not sure if you were coming back around, but you weren't facing him straight on. He was throwing a hook with that right, and at the same time, you were coming around. So what he did was not malicious. I could see it. It wasn't malicious. It just happened to be two guys coming in the same direction or whatever, and it wasn't clearly on the back, like back behind your neck.
Okay.
It looked like it was more here, on this side right here, where the head right here is where the target area is, right in here.
I would
So-
encourage you to watch that slow motion again, because when you wake up after the EMTs have left and this is all you could feel for 5 days, there was nothing close to the front of that head. And if you're saying a turn actually looks where, in order for me to execute a turn, that means there has to be a pivot foot. If you go watch that video, no feet became pivot feet. I was in between a slip, which doesn't require me to step, and you know that. And so if I'm turning, I would have then had to either turn into him or I would have had to turn away from him. There's
To
no
be fair,
motion
sir,
like that.
I do have to agree with Mr. McGrew. Like, I did see your body turned this direction when you did your slip,
Yes, sir.
and he was already coming
Yeah,
over.
if he caught me
over
on
the
this
top
end of the
punch.
slip, I would have continued to go back because he's a strong puncher.
Yeah.
When I was coming back this way, because that's the idea, when you do two slips, the first slip was here, and then you want to come back over the top. And my body never even showed a natural motion, which is, again, I was part of that problem because this is a bang-bang play. It's
Yeah.
not, I haven't been maliciously attacked. It's just, we're talking about two different moves. We're talking about somebody turning and then somebody slipping. It's two different
Unfortunately
moves.
for me, I like from the video, from the quality we have, I couldn't see any evidence that it was anything behind, like the back of the ear area. I totally take your word, but as far as like making decisions and overturning things, like I can't personally do that based on somebody's word necessarily. Like if the video evidence, sort of like the NFL rules, like it has to be 100% prove me wrong, or else I can't really get.
This
judge
is
against
boxing,
it.
so.
Does anyone need to see that video again?
Nah,
Nobody needs to see that again?
I think if you'd like to see it, we can watch it.
I don't need to see it again.
Okay, no, I think I collected everything I could off of it for the quality that we had.
Well, if we don't have any other questions, thank you for coming here and giving us your
Yeah,
take
sure,
on
sure.
that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Just to follow up on the question as well about the rules, the boxing rules do specifically say the deliberate use of like a rabbit punch is illegal. So I think that's where the hit behind, it doesn't specifically say the area behind the head where it would be, if that's what you were.
I know, like in mixed martial arts, I mean, even when I boxed,
Your mic, if you could.
even when I boxed, like we'd hit people behind, like you get hit behind the ear, it messes up your equilibrium, so that's a target spot for
Right.
people. So it's not necessarily like directly at the ear; it's more behind by a few inches.
Yeah, the MMA rule is a little bit more specific. I'm not
Yeah.
sure why that rule is a little bit different, worded differently.
Boxing gives it a little too much power to the judge, maybe.
Right. Is there any other discussion on this?
I have no other discussions. I have no other discussion on it. I don't know if anyone else thinks there was anything on there to cause us to change the decision as it stands. If you do, I mean, just we'll can discuss that. Does anyone see anything on there that causes us to change the decision?
I do not think I saw enough to overturn it, no.
Then I think at this point you could make a motion on the complaint, whether that would be to close the complaint. I think would be the appropriate motion.
I'll make the motion to close that complaint.
I second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to close complaint number 4. All those in agreement, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. That completes the legal report. Jesse, if you have any other updates on rules, things that impact them from this session, I'll leave it with you, sir. Thank you.
All right, I think we have 2 updates. The first is the rules related to the waivers that we reviewed previously. Those rules are being reviewed by the Attorney General's office, so we should have an update from them shortly by the next commission meeting, I would imagine. And at that point, we should have an effective date for those as well. And then the only other update I had from the legislative session, the sunset bill to extend the Athletic Commission was signed into law, and the commission has been extended to June 30th, 2031. So at that time, the legislature would again consider whether or not the commission should be extended or not. But that's a pretty lengthy extension. I think that that's the longest that we typically see. So we shouldn't have any further questions on that for some time. But those are the only two updates that affect the commission.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you. Next, we're on our new order of business. A couple of updates that I would like to give, and then make sure we can pause and have the commission members address anything they'd like to before we turn it over to anyone else participating. We have 3 big events coming up that I'd like to put on the record, and then maybe after we end, if you are able and interested to attend any of them, you can let me know so that the promoters are aware. The next one is Professional Fighting League. PFL is coming on June the 12th, and that is Nashville Municipal Auditorium. Their event's at 7:30. The one after that is BYB Extreme. This is the first bare knuckles event that we will have in the state of Tennessee. They are coming on June 21st at the Pinnacle at 7 p.m. And last but not least, in July, UFC is coming on July the 12th. They will be at Bridgestone Arena starting at about 6 p.m. So those 3 events will fall into our next fiscal year, but we're in pretty good shape for those. Deidre is here with me. She is our new licensing person. She's taken off running and done just a phenomenal job. The promoters are really happy to work with her as well. So I think that is the only thing extra that I wanted to add. Members, anything? Did you? Yeah.
I apologize. This was asked at the last commission meeting, and we'd followed up with the promoter on it. But there was a discussion at the last meeting about a amateur event in which there was concerns about whether or not people were being paid, and then some of the apparel. I reached out both to the amateur promoter as well as the sanctioning body and spoke with the individual who was in charge of that. The individual who was in charge with sanctioning the amateur event did specifically state that no one was paid for that. He was very clear that he had spoken with the promoter and made sure that he was aware that no one could be paid for this. He did comment on the apparel. There were some cowboy boots that were being worn by boxers. With it being an amateur event, we don't really have as much jurisdiction over the apparel of it. He did think, that was kind of an interesting use of cowboy boots in the ring, but he did note that everyone was safe, no one was harmed. So he did specifically mention that. But both the promoter as well as the amateur sanctioning body both specifically denied that anyone was paid. There were some expenses that were being reimbursed. They specifically said that the people who won their bouts got I think it was like a $50, which is allowed by the rule, and then they got a crown, a plastic crown. So that was all that they got if they won. But there were some expenses that were being reimbursed.
Well, I'd like to say, being at that event and asking one of the participants when they got out of the ring, how much was your check? And they looked at it and said $300. Maybe the person that was at ringside handing those checks out, which they handed out to each individual, maybe they were somebody that from the crowd that just thought they would hand out checks to those people, and they weren't associated with that organization at all. But they were, and I go on record as saying they were getting checks that I saw with my own eyes, $300. I saw it on the check.
And I do wonder if any of that could be the expenses.
That's what I was thinking.
Maybe it was the expense. Maybe it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying, they did get checks for $300. Call it what, I don't know if what they called it. I knew amateurs weren't supposed to get paid, but they could call it anything they like. If they wanted to say that was just travel expenses, so be it.
Are they allowed to do performance bonuses?
No. They cannot be paid for their performance anything more than $50 could be it. So if you have an individual that you know of that we should reach out to specifically for that, we would be happy to reach out to them. Okay. Because both we reached out to the individual who's in charge of the sanctioning body. He was very clear that he said, no one was paid. That would violate our terms of sanctioning this event. But I understand, what you saw as well. So I do think there is some conflict between what we have heard and what you have seen. So if you'd like for us to open a complaint, we could do that further. But we did follow up on that.
I think there's no need. Like I said, they were given money The only thing is what they were given that money for.
Right.
You could call it whatever you want. You know, you could call it a Christmas gift. You know, but I mean that's fine. I have no complaint about that.
Thank you. That was the only other thing I wanted to make sure that we followed up because we did reach out about that.
Well, I thank you for following up on that. I appreciate it. I was going to ask about that also, but thank you.
Members, if there's nothing else, I'm going to make sure that anyone that's participating through Teams, and I believe it's just both from my team, so I think we're good.
I do
And
have
this is just our team.
I do have a
Yes.
few things.
All yours.
Attending a lot of these events, I make notes and I try to notice different things. And I notice that there is a inconsistency, like I've brought up before, about the attire of the officials. I've always said that there should be some type of uniformity with the judges and the referee. You want to be able to tell the officials from the crowd and have the referee in there not look like he just came from a cookout in the ring, to have a professional style dress on. Because I think that when you are in there, you are a professional and you should look the part also to be taken seriously. And I think that maybe we have to do it at the rules meeting about coming up with some type of attire for the judges and the referee when they are, you know, in the ring there or representing the state of Tennessee. That I know that you have different organizations that have their dress, WBA, WBC, IBF, and other MMA organizations that have the dress for their officials. But I don't think that a judge should be sitting at ringside with a hat on. I think that's very unprofessional. I don't think that the referee should be in the ring with his shirt out. That's very unprofessional.
Jesse, would it be possible to make a rule that was kind of vague on that encompassed everything? That like PFL has their dress code, boxing has their dress code, UFC has their dress code, so you have to look professional. I think we discussed that a little bit before.
It's in the pipeline.
So
Okay.
yes, so that's part of the rulemaking that's being reviewed by the Attorney General's office.
Okay, perfect.
That we're requiring the promoters to make sure they have professional attire. I mean, we do give them a little bit more discretion since there are some promotions that want to have all the referees look one way. That was why we didn't say, you know, all referees must have a white shirt and black bow tie, for example. You know, that was just something that we felt like we should give the promoters a little bit of discretion there, but we are putting that as a requirement that they should make sure that all of their judges and officials are, referees are professional with their
Yeah, I
attire.
think the judges is a good touch too, just because I've seen some judges in sweatpants and stuff.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Also, I think I had brought this up another time also about training for our referees and judges. Now, I know that some of our judges voluntarily, on their own, go to WBC, IBF conventions, and they get good training there. You know, and I commend them for doing that, because I think it's very much needed. But then there are also some that don't take it upon themselves to further their education in the rules and regulations that we have. And so you may have things that come up to where somebody says, well, I was hit in the back of the head 3 or 4 times and the referee didn't do this, he didn't do that. Well, you know, maybe the referee needs to read the rules a little more or have a better understanding of the rules. How hard would it be for something to go like a little training class like on the website for the officials? I mean, nothing elaborate, but have someone talk about these are the rules and maybe have a video showing different fouls that can be called or whatever, or what to do in a certain situation. And they can voluntarily, it's not a requirement, but they can voluntarily go on that website and look at that little training video and maybe just to re-educate themselves. I don't know how much that would cost, or maybe we could.
I mean, I could build something like that for pretty cheap, but it would be more about having the professionals that were willing to build it and then willing to keep up with it constantly, because every time there's a rule change or anything else. My idea would be to be a little more capitalist about it and maybe empower other organizations like we do with amateur fighting in order to maybe there are some referees in Tennessee that are, say, just for MMA, right? Just MMA. If they're good referees in MMA, which I know a few, we could just talk to them and be like, hey, would you be interested in starting an organization that trained people? And we could maybe make a rule where people had to train, like get recertified with them every 3 to 5 years or something like that, or just initially. That way they go through the training, they have maybe they even do something like you're saying where they create a rule set and they can update their own website, and that can be a whole separate business for them, but it doesn't put any burden on the state either.
I think there's a couple different things to explore. One, I don't know, you had mentioned with the amateurs, but I do know with ABC as well that they put on training. So I know that there are options out there currently, because I think that we actually sent out the information about the bare knuckle training previously before that actually passed. But I know that they do referee training, they do judges training with ABC, which is helpful because they do travel around a little bit, but it's not necessarily Tennessee rule specific or anything related to that. So I think there's a couple different options. One, we could look to see, is there something voluntarily that we could either put out, be more proactive, potentially saying here's some training events that are occurring. Maybe make some type of a posting there to say here's what's available if you want to voluntarily do this. Maybe potentially look at is there any other things? We put all of our rules out there, for example. We've got a link on the website to all of the rules. We send out notifications when there's rule updates. Those are things that, people could read, but we could look to see, is there a way to make that maybe more interactive? That being on the state, though, would have costs. So, we can kind of look at that internally and discuss that as it relates to our budget and kind of what we have bandwidth to do. The other option potentially, some of our other professions do require continuing education. We could look to see, does it make sense to make a law change to say if you're a referee in the state of Tennessee, you should do continuing education? Does it make sense to have a rule that says, it's recommended that referees do continuing education in this amount? So I think there's some different options to look at if we want to do that through voluntarily by just saying, here's what's available. If you want to check out where you can get more training, here's where you can go. Or if we want to look at that being more mandated, we can discuss as well what type of changes we would need to do. But as it stands currently, we don't have those types of requirements. So, any type of change like that would require probably a law change. I could look at it a little more to see what we could do by rule potentially. But if we wanted to mandate continuing education for referees, that's something certainly we would want to look at and look at what other states are doing as well before we make that change.
Could we look at doing the voluntary part of it in the near future and then look at the rule change as a more long-term solution?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Because there are some of them, I think, that maybe would like to learn more, but they don't have any information about how they can do that. And just letting them know that there are these vehicles out there for you to learn more and do better. Because I think as Tennessee, as we get better and we having more shows and we get more publicity, television-wise, live streaming or whatever, you want to look good. And you want them to know that you come to Tennessee, you're going to get a good and fair decision because these referees and these judges, they know what they're doing.
Right. No, I agree. So we can look into both of those and try to see what we can do. Maybe come up with a plan before the next commission meeting as well to kind of outline all of that for you all to look at. I will say, having gone to pre-fight meetings as well, I know that that's something that we've had referees, discuss the Tennessee specific rules because some of them do go to different states. Certainly combatants are constantly in different states, but even our referees and judges as well. So whatever we can do to give more consistency. I think our rules as they are right now, as well as the ones that are pending, do align more with the ABC. So I think we will see, for example, we don't have the 3 knockdown rule. That was something that was unique to Tennessee for a long time. And we had a lot of referees that had to make sure they were reminding fighters about that, hey, this is Tennessee, there's the 3 knockdown rule, just so you're aware of that. But, we align a lot more with the ABC rules now, so I think the consistency should help, but having these available options I think will be helpful as well. So we'll look into that and kind of explore some different things for the commission to look at.
How you become a referee? I mean, just you go up and
You
say,
apply
hey,
for a
I'm
license. You apply for a license, and then the promoters are the ones that select who they're going to use. So your credentials would go to the promoter, and the promoter's responsible for making sure that you are aware because they are trusting you at their event. But the application is simply the application, your headshot, and the funds.
So no experience, or just all of a sudden you're a referee.
And again, the promoter would be the one who's going to hire you, right? And so the promoter gets to know your record, what states have you been at, who's going to recommend you. Just like, my boss hopefully looks up at my resume if I'm looking for a job, it would be no different. The state doesn't assign the referees or judges, the promoters pick them.
Right. Well, back years ago, I guess 90, 91, when I did professional here in Tennessee, I had to fill out an application and a resume about my experience. And there was a test that we took, just basic questions at that particular time. And I think right now you were a ring official. You was one fee. Right now you have a fee to be a judge. You have a fee to be a referee. You have a fee to be a timer. And it's broken down like that. You pay a certain fee, I think, for a referee. I think it's maybe $75 or something like that. A judge maybe $50, or a timekeeper. That's how they do it now. And that's one thing that I wanted to also mention too, probably at our next rules meeting, about boxers. Boxers are I think MMA is different to where you have to have some type of amateur experience, where boxing, you do not.
Right.
But I know that there are some boxers that, with no amateur experience, that do very well. But that's highly unlikely. I think Ernie Shavers never boxed any amateurs, but he was a great, never won a championship, but he was a great fighter. But I don't want to say that just because you don't have any amateur experience that you couldn't be a professional boxer. But for safety of the individual, like we had one individual that was 59 some odd years old, just decided he wanted to be a professional boxer, and he, luckily didn't get hurt too badly. But to keep from things like that happening, if you have no amateur experience and all of a sudden you just say, hey, I want to be a professional boxer. You can't be a professional race car driver or a professional football player, just walk on the field. But anyway, you should have to have training. If you train with a reputable and licensed trainer or coach, if you want to be a professional boxer, they should have to sign an affidavit or something stating that you have the ability, you have the knowledge to be a professional boxer, to perform at that level. You have the ability to perform at the professional level, although you have no amateur experience. That they have trained you, or they know that you have that experience as far as working out and with them, and you are at a level right now where you can perform at the professional level. Have them sign off on that, stating that this guy, he's ready to go.
And I know for bare knuckle, that is a requirement that they have some combat sports experience prior. So that would be something new for boxing. I would be curious. We can certainly look at that as well. Having it as an affidavit or amateur experience, I think, would be an easier way than just saying they have to be had amateur experience prior, because I think that would
Right.
make it hard for people to do professional debuts or want to bring, new fights to Tennessee. But, if they're willing to sign off and say this
Exactly.
person's trained, we can look at that. I'd be curious to see what other states are doing as well, so we can do some research on that. I think that might require a rule change for that as well. But that's something certainly we can start looking into now.
Okay, one other thing, and this is the last thing that I have. Has the commission changed the amount of inspectors that they have at shows? Because, go ahead.
Yes and no. Depending on the number of bouts is the number of inspectors that we'll have, how big the card is. But generally speaking, for our smaller to medium-sized cards, 3 inspectors is what would go. In most cases, the events and the promoters don't need the inspector to walk the person out. We follow all the requirements, which has to do with the gloves and the safety piece, but it just has to do with, availability of inspectors, how many bouts, how many events they're covering, and what part of Tennessee are they in. We've got some part-timers that do it, but so it really is depending on how big the event is and what the promoter is needing. We're always going to have the minimum for safety, but we're not going to necessarily have extra inspectors there that cost the program if the need is not there.
Right, well, at the last one that I attended, I only saw 1 inspector. I don't know if maybe the other ones were
We have never
in the
had
back.
one inspector only at an event. That I
Okay.
can tell you.
Well,
They might
well-
have been in the back.
Maybe they were in the back
Yeah.
during the whole show, but Mr. Little was there, and he was the only one that I saw at the desk except for the doctor.
He's always the one up front, but we have never had an event with just one. That just wouldn't be
Okay.
safe.
Because watching the event as it went on, there was no one there to keep the, I don't know if that was the arena security job, but the individuals attending the event would be up at ringside, banging on the canvas, having their phones inside the ring. These are spectators, which should not have been allowed. And the one inspector that was there, I mean, he had his hands full doing other things there at ringside, watching the bout, making sure that everything was right. And when all this other stuff was going on. So,
And that's what I was going to say. Typically, so since they don't walk fighters out anymore, typically they're in the back the entire time. If it's the event that I'm assuming it might be, typically they've got multiple fighters that are in the back getting wrapped and waiting back there. So that's why the inspectors are sitting back there the entire time. They do typically come out after the last fighter has, if everyone's been wrapped, the last fighter is out. So that way there's no one else to watch back there. They'll typically come up front. But that is something, if we had more inspectors there, maybe they would mention that the promoter, that's something the promoter and security as well should be responsible for. Certainly, I don't think our inspectors would be prohibited from telling the promoter, hey, they can't do that. They can't, especially entering the ring or putting something in the ring that's a safety concern. But, even being close to it, that's something that the promoter should not be allowing at that point.
Ask the question. Should you have stopped that?
No.
have any authority.
No, if you are at an event, I would suggest security or the promoter, but you can get the promoter and bring it up and let them know, it doesn't look like there's control over the situation, because the promoter is running the event.
Because certainly if someone got hurt, if they tripped on a cell phone, for example, that would be a terrible situation. So our inspectors could mention, I know at times our inspectors have mentioned things to promoters when they've observed things. Mr. Little is not shy to say, hey, this is not going as it should be. Even correcting things where bout sheets have said incorrect number of rounds, making sure that those are addressed. So,
our inspectors, they do a great job.
Mm-hmm.
They do a great job, and they have, as far as I've seen, always performed at a high level there. But when I am at an event, I don't ever try to interfere with whatever they're going to do, or whatever. I keep my mouth shut and my eyes open. Mm-hmm. And if I see something dangerous, I may bring it to their attention. But I'm there as an observer, and I'm not, I don't want to get involved in the match
Right.
or anything like that. But they do a great job, and they all should be commended for what they do.
They've been very busy lately, which is good. It's a good problem to have. But I know that that's something that they've been kind of stretched a little thin. But no, they do a great job, especially with some of these larger events that are coming this summer. I know those will go well.
Right. Well, I don't have anything else. If anybody else has anything.
We are good, members, and we didn't have anyone with questions or anything to address to the commission. So if everyone is done, I would need a motion to adjourn, please.
I will make the motion to adjourn.
I'll
Thank-
second.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ricky. And it is 3:05, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much for everything, members.